something that has never like fully made sense to me that I'll never forget when I was struggling financially. I had gotten myself into way too much credit card debt, and I was not wanting to ruin my credit. And I felt like because I had bought all this stuff, I had spent irresponsibly and above what I was making, I was like, you know what, I need to make sure that I pay it off. And I felt like just not a great person, so I kept making these huge payments on these credit cards that I had occurred. And I think a lot of us do. And it's kind of like part of the cycle. And I did a previous YouTube about how they start targeting us already in college. And like basically as soon as we turn 18, giving us this debt and this credit without really giving us the education behind it. And I know a lot of people and people that have money and are financially educated, or, if they were to see this video, would be like, well, how do you not know? And it's not an excuse for the overspending or anything like that, but we live in a society where that is what it is. And, someone's debt is someone else's asset. And that is specifically with these credit card companies. And when I had gotten myself in a situation about 8 years ago, I will never forget a couple family members telling me, like, you're going to have to file bankruptcy. You're never going to get ahead, right? And I was like, no, I don't want to be that person. I'm never going to file a bankruptcy. Like, I'm going to find a way to get out of this. I was working 3 different jobs at the time. And I realized, though, there was no way at a 25%, interest rate that I was ever going to pull myself out. Like, I was at the point where I was just paying interest and I wasn't paying down on the cards. So I finally broke and I went ahead and filed a bankruptcy. And it was like, for me at the time, it was humiliating. It was embarrassing. I didn't want anybody to know. And, but what was really crazy to me was that I couldn't qualify for anything, right? Because I had maxed myself out on all this debt, and my credit score was dropping. And I couldn't believe within 6 months, I want to say, I was starting to receive credit card offers to go and get more credit and more debt. Within 2 years, I had companies that I had maxed. I had gotten myself, Capital One was one of the big ones that I had incurred debt with, and I ended up filing in the bankruptcy. And within 2 years, I was getting credit card offers for several $1,000s again on credit. And I was like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, they already know, like, I couldn't, like, 2 plus 2 wasn't equaling 4. And the other night I had this epiphany, and I was like thinking, I'm like, it's that simple. It's all smoke and mirrors. They need us to take on debt so they have more assets, because with debt, like I had covered in another video, they're just printing numbers. Like, it's not that there's any value. There was not any gold that was mined. There's nothing that is backing this, like, make-believe money. It could be monopoly money. There really is no actual difference except the fact that we believe it has value and we spend it. It's the money that we pay back on this is where they make their money, because it's make-believe. It's not real, right? It's not real until we start paying them that money. So if we get ourselves in a situation where we're over leveraged and we have all of this debt that we can no longer afford, and again, if they wanted us to make it affordable and make it something, because I was always told, well, you need credit cards in case of an emergency. And but the reality of it is, with wealthy people do not pay interest rates at the rate that we do, because they're not stupid. They're financially educated. It would make no sense to incur that kind of debt with those types of payments. And they have to suck us in. So they allow us to flush it out, because again, it was make-believe money to begin with. If we can no longer pay for this make-believe money with the actual money, the labor, the time and the energy that we invest to actually make real money, then they have to figure out a way to let us off the hook in order to re-hook us, right? So I never made sense to me that all of these companies, it's like, a lot of people that you're giving this debt to, this credit card, like, they're not going to be able to afford it. Like, how can so many people, like, file bankruptcy? Why is that a thing? To me, it was like it's almost like borderline theft. You're spending this money with a promise of repayment along with this interest, and then you're like, oh, I can't do it anymore, and you wash it away, and then you're allowed to get more. And it's a flushing cycle. They get to print more money to give you more debt for you to pay on with hard labor, time, and value. And I don't know if this makes sense to people, but the reality of it is it's all just a financial scam. It helps inflate and print money into the economy. And it was just like so clear to me last night that I was like, I've been trying to figure out how to put it in terms of like an average person and the average things that we experience and that we go through on this printing money thing, because there's so many different ways that they do it. And this one is huge because literally it is not backed by anything. They can sit there in the bank and say, hey, here's $10,000 on a credit card and you're going to pay me, basically it's like 30% interest now. Nobody can get ahead of themselves or get like out of it if you start using those cards. Even if it is an emergency, if it's an emergency and you don't have the cash, and then on top of that you're gonna have to do 30% on interest, you're just digging a hole that you're never going to get out of, and you're not designed to get out of it, because it keeps you entrapped and it keeps you grinding at these jobs that we do not like, and just like treading water, fighting depression, wondering why we feel this way. And the reality of it is, it's how they keep us down. It's how they keep us from educating ourselves. And it's, and then you feel embarrassed and you feel like you're the only one. And the reality of it is, most Americans are dealing with way too much debt. And, a famous quote, and I don't know who said it, but you hear it, or I've heard it several different times, where they talk about, do what the wealthy do. The wealthy would never, ever take on this amount of debt on a credit card at these types of interest rates. They don't do it. They know better, right? They use their money and they have the assets of what we're freaking paying on, basically. But I don't know if that made sense as clear as I was hoping to like kind of get it out there. But it really is that simple. It's make-believe money, and it works because we believe in this system. And we allow them to do this and to continue to suck the money out of the system of the actual labor. Like, we are technically the commodity. We're the ones that make the little bus go round and round. And they're sucking us dry with their greed. And it's that, it really is that simple. And it's so hard to wrap your mind around it when you do not think like that. The average American isn't thinking about how to screw over the next guy. Like, we're thinking about how do we survive what we are currently in and what we are currently experiencing, how to be a good human being, how to raise good human beings, and how to pay this massive amount of debt that we're all in, that, has just kind of been thrown at us. And it's so important to me to just do these YouTube videos, whether anybody sees them or not. It makes me feel better just to like kind of express it, work through it. And then, if anybody does see it and anybody does comment on it, I love the different things that I hear, because it gets my wheels spinning even more. And there's so many more people out there that know so many more things than I do. And I think it's so crucial that we share it. But that's kind of the rabbit hole, and like something I'm hoping that I got conveyed as far as how that kind of works and how it affects us. I hope everybody has a great day, and anybody that listened, I appreciate you listening. You're supposed to say subscribe, leave a comment, whatever. It does help. I want you to do it if you want to be part of a community. So take care.